aesthetic, idealism, other words that have to do with perfection. Perfection. Welcome to the Ideal Bookshelf Tag. Hello, my name is Pete. This channel is called The Ponderings of Pete because a little bit of ego. Anyways, so I was tagged in the Ideal Bookshelf Tag by Kim at Bookmarks and Breadsticks. Go ahead and check out her channel down below. She is also the creator of this tag, so I'll also link the original tag down below. She tagged me in this, I think, sometime in January, but let's just dive right in. Question 1. What is the first book you remember reading as a child? And for me, this is the Boxcar Children. This is the first series, the first books that I actually remember reading for myself. I read as many as I could. I was a serial reader. I read Boxcar Children, Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, all that jazz. If there was a giant series of serialized books like that, I was going after it. The second question is, what is a book that you received as a gift? The ones that come to mind, and they're all packed up right now, sadly, are my Agatha Christie novels that I have. A lot of them came from my grandmother, and I still have them to this day. Some of them are falling apart, like my cards on the table, like the first 10 pages are kind of just like, which is sad, but they're paperbacks. I'm gradually trying to collect more of them, more of Agatha Christie's works, because I definitely haven't read all of them. So, yeah, Agatha Christie, any of them. We'll just go with like Murder on the Orient Express or Death on the Nile or the ABC Murders. The third one is a book that was important in your teenage years. And I thought about this, and I think during my teenage years, it gets kind of fuzzy because I started getting a lot busy. But I think these are the years when I started reading at least more into the Star Wars Extended Universe. Specifically, the OG Thrawn trilogy. Fond memories of that. You have Heir to the Empire, Rising Darkness, and Last Command, I believe. But the original, they were so good. They were really similar to the movies in the sense that they felt like you were reading another trilogy. They were focused on Luke, Leia, Han, and then you have the antagonist that is Thrawn. Even now, I still love Thrawn. Even the new novels that Disney has made have Thrawn as the protagonist, so you see his rise in the Thrawn trilogy. That's Thrawn Allegiance, and Thrawn Treason. They are focused on various points in time in Thrawn's career with the Empire. And then Timothy Zahn, the author, is writing another series that I think he's releasing book number 2 like just this past month. And then book 3 is actually coming out in November because book 2 is delayed because of COVID. So that trilogy is going to finish up this November. And I'm excited, really looking forward to it. And that details Thrawn's time before when he was part of the Chiss Ascendancy. That's some fun stuff that's, kept me up. Number 4 is a book you can always go back to. And this is interesting. I've read enough mystery novels that I've started forgetting a lot of the ones that I've read. Like with Agatha Christie, I've read and then forgotten most of the answers. Outside of a few standouts, like The Murder of Roger Ackroyd or Murder on the Orient Express. I don't remember Death on the Nile. But the one I'm going to pick for that is not an Agatha Christie book. I'm actually going to pick Sherlock Holmes. Any of them. I have compendiums around here somewhere. I think those are also packed up. I've also read and forgotten most of the solutions for those. Maybe not the big ones like Hound of the Baskervilles, not the Scarlet Letter, Lady in Red, Study in Scarlet. There we go. Big ones like that I can remember, but not a lot of the smaller ones. So I could always go back to them. The next one is number 5. What is a book that brings you a feeling of pride? And I remember struggling with this one a little bit because okay, what does this mean? Is this like a feeling of a prideful feeling of, oh my gosh, I got this before anybody else? Or was this a feeling of, oh my gosh, I have such pride in the author. I have pride in what I did here. Like if it's a published book, it'd be really easy if you were a writer to answer this one. But eventually, I think I went back to The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Just reading that for the first time, I was just like, oh my gosh, this guy has created such a wonderful universe. And each of the successive Stormlight Archive books is built on just amazing. Brandon Sanderson, you're good. The next one is a book that's brought you a feeling of wonder. So, wonder. The one I picked for this was Lord of the Rings. I know I'm picking an entire series, but technically they're all one book, so... because that's what the author intended, but it's fine. Anyways, Lord of the Rings was probably one of the first... It was that or Aragon that really just, I was like, wow, this is so cool. Some of the imagery in Lord of the Rings is amazing. Walking through Hobbiton in those first few pages and understanding the Hobbit society is such a beautiful experience. Like, it's hard to replicate that or even put that in another book. Also because it's really unique and not many people do that anymore because that's an info dump. But it was beautiful. Number 7 is a book that you've reread the most or that you love the most. And I think the books that I've reread the most for certain is Aragon, or that series, the Inheritance series. I've read those books at least 6 times each. Like, I'm not even joking. This was the book that I would these were the books that I would reread while waiting for you. These were the first to do this for me. These were the books that I eagerly anticipated the next one coming out, because I first read the series right after Eldest came out. So I spent a good 2 or 3 years waiting for Brissinger and Inheritance to come out. And in that time, I reread Aragon, Eldest, Brissinger, multiple times over. I took notes, etc. Like, these guys have been with me for a very long time. 8, a book that you would put on your shelves forever. I mean, I wouldn't not want any of these on my shelves forever for a lot of different reasons, but the one I picked for this one was Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, or Through the Looking Glass, or just, I have a collection that's also put away, incidentally. And so I've had that collection since I was younger as well, and I've always loved Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass because of how zany and weird and crazy it is. And there is hey, Lewis Carroll's the first proponent of game theory, right? There's that whole thing. I just enjoyed it being weird and crazy. Like, I enjoy that sort of thing that's just almost crazy for craziness sake sometimes. Would I read a book like that now? No, because there's nostalgia attached to that. Well, maybe. It depends. I like Discworld, so that's kind of crazy, but that's also, there's a purpose to it. Number 9, a book on your shelf that you want everyone to read. And what I picked for this was, of course, Stormlight, but I'm not going to cop out and use that twice. So the second book or book series that I want everyone to read is Red Rising. I think it's an amazing series, and it's a really interesting study into classism and the different thought processes to a certain extent that go around that. And revolution, of course. It's a revolution. Revolutions are great. It's one of my favorite sci-fis. Check it out. Read it. It's great. So the very last one is number 10, a book that reminds you of a specific moment or a period of time in your life. This is without a doubt Percy Jackson. I was a huge into the Percy Jackson fandom when I was younger, to the point I was in a Percy Jackson roleplay group on Facebook. And it's, it was a bunch of 14-year-olds and 12-year-olds and whatever that were messing around and pretending they were sons and daughters of gods and goddesses in the chat, playing pretend. It was great. I made a lot of friends there. I still have 1 or 2 of them that I keep in contact occasionally, and they're good people, and that just reminds me of just when I was on the internet and making friends on the internet. I think we tried to do a Harry Potter one, but that didn't take off as much because I think there were probably other big ones, but it was fun. Reminds me of that time in my life. Well, that was the ideal bookshelf tag. Who do I want to tag? I don't know who hasn't been tagged in this. I'm going to tag Andrew at Get Right On In, because I don't think he's done this one. If he has, I'm sorry. And then I am going to tag Lyra at Lyra Bat. I don't know if either of these have done this tag. I haven't really looked. I should have looked beforehand. Those are the 2 people I'm tagging. Tag you're it. And yeah, thanks for watching. Stay tuned tomorrow for the next one.